Monday we will have a review of what we have learned from chapters 1 through 6. And then the following Monday is your first little test. Okay? You notice the use of the word little? Okay. That's to just calm you down. Okay. So that's kind of our game plan for the next 2 weeks itself. Generally, just a couple of other comments. I was very happy to see that people did very well in their homework assignments. You know, we always have a few, which I'll try to get to. But for the most part, people did well. And later on, when everybody is in, we'll talk a little bit more about the threaded discussions. Okay, so so far we had an introduction. We learned a little bit about governmental funds. We learned a little bit about general fund, a little bit about special revenue fund, something about permanent funds, and we're going to learn about the last two funds within the governmental funds today. But first, before we get started, as I spoke to you last time, there's something very interesting when you in governmental accounting and long-term capital assets. And what is that? Do you record capital assets, or do you show items as assets in the governmental fund balance sheet? No, you don't, because it's based on what? A short-term focus. The measurement focus does not allow for us showing long-term assets or long-term liabilities. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about what the different classes of assets are. We'll say a few words about depreciation. And once again, I know it's early in the morning, but you need to be able to distinguish between accrual-based accounting and modified accrual basis. Two different things. And as I talk to you, both sides of your brain should think about that. Okay. So we'll take a look at the next category of fund, which is the capital projects fund, and then take a look at the financial statements and a couple of special topics. So first, what are general capital assets? We all know what capital assets are. They are what? They are long-lived. They are physical assets. They can be intangible assets too. But in this case, notice the use of the word general capital assets. Whenever you see the word general, it should trigger something in your mind, which is that they belong assets that are used in governmental activities. If there are assets which are used in business activities of a government, they're not called general capital assets. They're just plain capital assets. So there's something about the use of the word general. If it says general, that means governmental activities. If it just says capital assets, it's business type activities and fiduciary. Okay? And that's the first thing, and that's why we talk about making distinction between capital assets of governments as opposed to capital assets of business activities and fiduciary. Because each one of them records them separately, so we need to understand that. What are these capital assets? Well, land, you have buildings, you have improvements, really nothing